And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is our last of the previews for the 2023 Rugby World Cup, saving the best for last. No pun intended, this being Pool B, but Pool B actually stands for D in this case because this is the pool of death. I mean, this is a really, really competitive pool with, I feel bad for Romania and Tonga in this because you have three of the top five teams in the World Rugby rankings. It's going to be a pretty brutal competition with one of these two teams possibly easily being in the finals of the Rugby World Cup. Let's go over real quickly. South Africa, your reigning defending three-time Rugby World Cup champions. At number 2, Ireland, your current number 1 ranked Rugby World ranking team. Ireland, who has been dominant for the last almost 2 years. Scotland, who's ranked number 5. Romania, number 19. And then Tonga, number 15. 3 important games from this one, obviously involving the top 3 teams. September 10th, South Africa versus Scotland. September 23rd, South Africa versus Ireland. And then October 7th, one of the last games of pool play, Ireland versus Scotland. And I'll go into details of why that game is going to be pretty important. Again, you can watch all these games live and on demand on the Peacock Network. So let's get started. Let's talk about, again, your reigning, defending, three-time Rugby World Cup champions, the Springboks, the South Africa. Now, they are currently ranked number 2 because of a huge win recently, and we'll go over that in a couple of minutes. Head coach is Jacques Nienbar, who is the successor to the very popular head coach of South Africa, Rassie Erasmus. Jacques Nienbar was the assistant coach during the 2019 and 2015 Rugby World Cups, taking over in 2020. In the 2019, of course, South Africa ended up winning the entire Rugby World Cup, making their 3rd championship, tying with New Zealand for 3 Rugby World Cups. No other team in all of rugby has won 3 Warren Ellis Cups other than South Africa and New Zealand. Australia is close with 2. The only loss that South Africa had in the Rugby World Cup was during pool play against New Zealand. New Zealand isn't in the pool this year. Recently, South Africa has been on a tear. Not only did they defeat Argentina 24-13, August 5th. Then August 19th, they defeated Wales 52-16. But the big victory was avenging their loss during the Rugby Championship. August 25th, defeating New Zealand 35-7. At that time, New Zealand was ranked number 2 in the world. South Africa knocked them down to take over the number 2 spot. Huge win. Huge momentum. I know I'm sounding like a record player on this one, but huge momentum for the Springbokkers going in to defend the Rugby World Cup crown. The roster is literally a who's who of Springbokkers. Bongi Bonabi, who is one of my favorite players. Hooker, plays for the Sharks in the club scene. Eben Etabeth, 113 caps for South Africa is locked. This is going to be his 3rd World Cup. Of course, their team captain is Siya Kolisi, who is in the back row. One of my favorite, even though he's very controversial players in rugby, Faf de Klerk, who is the scrum half for South Africa. I've mentioned before, scrum halves are kind of compared to a Chihuahua. They're usually the smallest player on the pitch, but they're the loudest, and Faf de Klerk is one of the loudest, but man, is he a tactical devil on the pitch. Hard to hit, hard to catch. Very smart, huge rugby IQ. People love to hate him, also because he has such lovely flowing locks of blonde hair. But Faf de Klerk, one of my favorite players, just recently moved over to Japan to play a couple of club games there. Damian Williamsey, a very young scrum half, and then Manny Liebach, another really young scrum half for South Africa. He will be making his World Cup debut in this World Cup. Makazole Mapimbi, another great player, winger for South Africa. Willie LaRue, fullback veteran, and then Kurt Lee Arsendi, another good young dynamic winger for the South African Springbokkers. Again, these guys, very good chance to definitely make it out of this pool, though Ireland and Scotland will definitely have something to say about it. Definitely Ireland. Ireland currently the number one ranked team in the World Rugby rankings, and with rightfully so. They have been pretty dominant for the last couple of years. And again, like I said, rugby is all about momentum. South Africa has a lot of momentum going to this Rugby World Cup. Ireland has just as much, if not more. Head coach of Ireland is Andy Farrell, who is actually the father of recently suspended England captain Owen Farrell. He was the assistant coach to Ireland from 2016 to 2019 during that World Cup, and then also took over in 2020. During the 2019 World Cup, they were second in pool play, losing that miraculous win for Japan to come second in Japan in the pool. They ended up losing in the quarterfinals to New Zealand 46-14. Getting knocked out kind of early for Ireland. They are hoping, of course, to bounce back in this Rugby World Cup. Last couple games that Ireland played, August 5th, they defeated Italy 33-17. August 19th, big win for them. They defeated England 29-10. And then August 26th, they defeated Samoa 17-13. But granted, there was a lot of their star players that were not playing in that game. And speaking of some of their star players, there are a few injuries to be concerned about. No Keenan Healy, no Andrew Conway. Stockdale's injured as well. CJ Standard, a standout number 8 for Ireland, announced his retirement. So there are a few injuries, but there still is a lot of talent for Ireland. Todd Furlong, a longtime prop for them. Peter O'Mahony, 96 caps for them as a back rower, third World Cup. Josh Van der Fleer, another veteran player for Ireland. This is going to be his third World Cup. One of my favorite scrum halves, Jamison Gibson Park, 31-year-old for them. Ross Byrne, almost pretty consistent for Ireland, 26 caps for them. A very young fly half that will probably have some good kicking duties, Jack Crowley. And then, of course, old man Johnny Sexton, 113 caps for Ireland. This will be his fourth World Cup, probably his last, but he has always been a veteran presence coming off the bench for Ireland. Bundy Aki, the Fijian that plays for Ireland, 47 caps at the center. Robbie Henshaw, 64 caps. And then, of course, Gary Ringrow, another good center. Their wingers, James Lowe, very exciting, very dynamic young player, 21 caps for them. Hugo Keenan, a veteran at the fullback. And, of course, Keith Earls, another veteran that will be coming off of the bench with 100 caps under his belt. Let's move on to Scotland. Scotland, number 5 ranked team. Ireland, South Africa don't necessarily have a dominant claim over this pool because Scotland can easily knock down Ireland or South Africa. It's really going to be very, very competitive when those 3 teams play. Gregor Townsend is their head coach. He was the head coach from 2017 till now. He coached the team in 2019. Unfortunately, they did not get past pool play last Rugby World Cup, which was very disappointing for them. They did lose to Ireland during that pool play, 27-3. So you know Scotland's looking for some revenge there. The last couple of games, August 5th, they defeated France 25-21. Big win for Scotland there. But then they lost in the rematch, 30-27. But you know, very, very close games in those games. They, of course, then finished off defeating Georgia 33-6 on August 26th. Again, it's Georgia, so not necessarily the biggest scalp for Scotland, but again, momentum going into the Rugby World Cup. Their lineup, you, of course, have to talk about Finn Russell. Possibly the greatest player in the world currently right now. If you've never heard of the man, look him up. Definitely a phenomenal rugby player. 30 years old. Ever since he's been in rugby for almost a decade, he's always been considered a prodigy. But again, now considered one of the best in the world playing right now. So he will be fully supporting this team as captain. Ben White is a young scrum half. He might be injured from what I've heard, but if he is, Ollie Price is another young scrum half that will be taking his place. Xander Farguson is a veteran prop, though right now he might be under review because of some possible foul plays that he did in the Georgia game. We still don't know the situation with that. Jamie Ritchie, captain in the back row. Hamish Watson is another star player for them. Big news for Scotland is the retirement of Stuart Hogg, who is usually Finn Russell's dynamic partner. Unfortunately, with him being retired and then Johnny Gray also being injured, the fullback position and the center position are kind of a lot of young players. Blair Kinghorn, Ollie Smith. Sione Tupuilotu is a young center who has a lot of spark and fire in him. He may get a lot of play time. And then, of course, Hugh Jones is probably the only veteran in that back half. They're going to rely a lot on him. And then another exciting player that I really love to watch, Duhan Vandermeer. Man, if you watch any Premiership games with him in it for Saracens, and then, of course, playing for Scotland, I mean, Duhan Vandermeer is just... Duhan Vandermeer plays for Edinburgh. He is phenomenal, a great, great player. Definitely someone exciting to watch for Scotland. Again, Scotland with Finn Russell alone is a force to be reckoned with. They can easily topple Ireland or South Africa, which again is why this last game is super, super important, because this game is going to happen a little bit after South Africa plays against Ireland. And you know this game is going to be super, super physical. Both teams are going to get beaten up. Ireland might be worse for wear in this game, and then they have to deal with Scotland. So, man, Ireland is going to have a tough time getting out of this pool as the top two, because if South Africa doesn't destroy them, Scotland can easily pick them off, possibly. So, Ireland-Scotland, that could be an upset game right there if Ireland's not careful. Moving on to the other two teams, and I hate to say the other two teams, but definitely the two teams that are going to get grinded in this pool of death. Romania at number 19. The Sajari, which means Oaks in Romanian. Head coach is Eugen Apjak, who took over in December 2022, so just recently took over, which is never a good sign when your head coach comes in with less than a year with familiarity with the team. He's in his coaching style, so the team has really had to adapt. Romania, if we're talking about Scotland and Ireland and South Africa going into this Rugby World Cup with some momentum, Romania is kind of almost the exact opposite. 3 games they played right before the World Cup. All 3 games they lost. Pretty one-sided. They lost to the United States August 5th, 31-17. They lost to Georgia, 56-6. And then they lost to Italy, 57-7. So, man, Romania coming in limping into this Rugby World Cup. 2019 is the only Rugby World Cup that actually Romania did not get to play in. They've been in every Rugby World Cup since, and this is the 10th Rugby World Cup. So they've been in 8 other World Cups. 2019 is the only World Cup they were not able to play in, and that's because they had an illegal player on their team throughout that year when they qualified, so that basically took out their rights for qualification, which is kind of ironic because this 2023 Rugby World Cup, the way that they were able to qualify, they finished 3rd in the European rugby competition. Top 2 teams were supposed to make it in. Spain was number 2. Georgia was number 1. Spain ended up having illegal players on their team, so they dropped out. And Spain, and then Romania was number 3, so they bumped up to the number 2 spot. So they were able to come in as Europe number 2. Not too familiar with the team, but apparently some of their better players are Mihai Lazar, 63 caps under his belt. This is his 3rd World Cup. Their team captain is Mihai Makore, who is in the back row, 98 caps for him as captain. And then Florence Surigian, who is their scrum half, also 98 caps for him. Then moving on to Tonga, 15th ranked Tonga, the Ikale Tahi, or the Sea Eagles. Their head coach is Totai Kefu, who actually was a coach of the Kobuto Spears in Japan from 2012 to 2016, then took over for Tonga in 2016. He was their head coach in the 2019 Rugby World Cup, where unfortunately they only went 1-3, losing to Italy in that competition, and then their one win was against the United States, 31-19. Going into the competition, they're on a little bit of a streak. They lost to Samoa August 5th, 39-9, but then they defeated Canada back-to-back August 10th and August 25th, 28-3 and 36-12. So again, some momentum for Tonga going in, more momentum than Romania. Tongan players to look out for: Leva Fifita, who is a lock, 32 caps; Steve Mafi, also a lock, 34 caps; and Sonatani Takulua, who is their captain, scrum half, 52 caps, plays for Agen, the French club. This will be his third World Cup. So, yeah, this is a tough pool. I mean, God, except for Pool A, all the pools are tough to predict. Again, South Africa is your reigning defending three-time Rugby World Cup champions. Ireland's your number one rank, but Scotland can easily play spoiler. I can see Scotland upsetting Ireland in the last game, and if they do, chances of Scotland getting into as the number 2 team behind South Africa are pretty high. I feel South Africa is almost a lock going into this. But, Ireland has been playing really, really well. Scotland does have Finn Russell, best player in rugby. Oh, man, it's hard. I'm going to go with Ireland, because I know a certain person who likes to watch my videos will definitely be upset if I don't pick Ireland. And I think Ireland has a good chance. I just feel this Scotland-Ireland game, this is going to be a very important game to watch. But I feel South Africa and Ireland will be your 2 teams moving on into knockout rugby. So again, guys, don't forget, the Rugby World Cup starts this Friday. New Zealand versus France is the kickoff game. You can watch it all live or on demand on the Peacock Network. Again, a great streaming service if you're a rugby fan, because not only do they have the Rugby World Cup, they have the HSBC Rugby 7 Series. They have Six Nations. They have Premiership Rugby. Every game in Premiership Rugby throughout the season. Lots of great rugby. So again, if you're a fan or if you want to try to watch the Rugby World Cup for the very first time, that's kind of how I got into rugby from sevens, and then of course Japan's involvement during the 2015 Rugby World Cup. It's a great time to get into rugby. If you want to watch it live and on demand. Every match on Peacock. So again, guys, thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll see you on the pitch.